Black Hollow, a name whispered more than spoken, a town cloaked in the chill of an old tragedy. The residents knew the stories, they carried them in their bones. It was a story of iron and screams, a story of the forgotten. On a cold November night in 1947, the Midnight Express derailed just outside Black Hollow, plunging into the newly dug tunnel beneath Widow's Hill. The tunnel, unfinished and unstable, collapsed, sealing the fate of all aboard. Or so the story went. The townsfolk, haunted by the tragedy, sealed the tunnel entrance with concrete, a silent tomb swallowed by the earth. But some things refused to stay buried. Whispers began, of ghostly lights flickering near the sealed entrance, of spectral train whistles echoing in the dead of night. The forgotten tunnel became a spectre in the town's history, a place where the veil between life and death ran thin.
October 2024. The air was crisp and the leaves crunched underfoot. 4 friends, Liam, Emily, Ben and Chloe, arrived in Black Hollow, a town shrouded in mystery and whispers. Drawn by the legend of the tunnel, a tale that had haunted the town for generations. They were seniors on the verge of their futures, yet tonight they sought something from the past. But tonight they were ghost hunters, driven by curiosity and a dare that none could refuse.
Liam, the skeptic, saw it as a challenge, a test of his courage and logic. A chance to debunk the myths that clung to the town like a persistent fog. Emily, the artist, felt a pull towards the sadness that permeated the air, a melancholy that inspired her work. Ben, the joker, masked his fear with nervous laughter, his jokes a shield against the unknown. And Chloe, the believer, craved the truth, no matter how terrifying it might be.
The air grew colder as they approached the base of Widow's Hill, a place steeped in eerie tales. The trees, gnarled and skeletal, clawed at the twilight sky, casting long, haunting shadows. They found the entrance hidden amongst the trees, a secret long forgotten by most. A concrete slab, cracked and weathered, bearing the scars of time and neglect.
Liam, armed with a crowbar and a flashlight, pried at the concrete slab, his breath visible in the cold air. Doubt flickered in his eyes. A moment of hesitation. "Are we sure about this?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper against the wind, uncertainty creeping in.
Chloe, her eyes shining with anticipation, placed a hand on his arm, her grip firm and reassuring. "Don't you want to know the truth, Liam?" she whispered, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and fear. The truth, however, was a door best left unopened, a mystery that might be better left unsolved. The air inside the tunnel was stale, heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay. It felt as though the walls themselves were closing in, suffocating them with the weight of years gone by. Their flashlights cut through the oppressive darkness, revealing walls slick with moisture. Every step they took echoed, amplifying the sense of isolation. The silence was broken only by the sound of their own breathing. It was a heavy, labored sound, as if the very air resisted being drawn into their lungs. And something else, a faint humming, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. It seemed to pulse through the walls, a living entity within the stone, or the chug of a distant engine. The sound was both comforting and unsettling, a reminder of the world outside.
They pressed on, deeper into the heart of the hill. Each step took them further from the safety of the entrance and deeper into the unknown. The air grew colder, the humming louder. It was as if the tunnel itself was alive, breathing with them, guiding them forward. The tunnel floor was littered with debris. Each piece told a story of abandonment and time's relentless march. Twisted metal, shattered wood, fragments of what might have been seats. Remnants of a past, long forgotten, now just obstacles in their path.
They stopped at a section of wall where strange symbols were etched into the stone. The markings were ancient, filled with a history they could only guess at. Chloe brushed a hand over the markings, her fingers tracing their intricate patterns. She could feel the energy, the stories, the lives that had touched this place. "These look ancient," she murmured, her voice hushed with awe. It was as if she had stumbled upon a secret, a hidden piece of history.
Ben picked up a small tarnished object half buried in the dirt. It was cold to the touch, a relic from another time. It was a pocket watch. The glass was cracked, but the hand still moved, ticking backwards, a mystery in itself, defying the natural order of time.
The humming intensified, morphing into a low rumble that seemed to vibrate in their chests. The air crackled with an unseen energy. Then, through the darkness at the end of the tunnel, a light appeared. It grew steadily, revealing the unmistakable silhouette of a steam locomotive. Its headlight, a single baleful eye, bore down on them.
The train was a grotesque parody of its former self, its exterior twisted and mangled, and it was filled with passengers. Their forms were skeletal, their eyes burning with a cold, spectral fire.
The sound of their screams, mournful and filled with an unimaginable pain, echoed through the tunnel. Liam stumbled back, his face pale with terror. "This is impossible," he whispered, his voice choked with fear.
But as impossible as it seemed, it was very real, and it was hurtling towards them.
Panic seized them. They scrambled back the way they came, their flashlights bobbing erratically in the darkness.
The spectral train roared closer, its whistle screaming like a banshee.
The tunnel seemed to stretch endlessly before them, the exit nowhere in sight.
The ground trembled beneath their feet.
"We're trapped!" Emily screamed, her voice high with panic.
He cried out, reaching for Chloe, but it was too late.
Ben, his eyes wide with terror, tripped over a piece of debris.
The shadows from the walls, now alive with a malevolent energy, surged towards him.
They coalesced around him, skeletal hands reaching, pulling him into the darkness.
His screams were swallowed by the roar of the approaching train.
Then silence.
Ben was gone. Chloe, tears streaming down her face, screamed for Ben.
But her cries were lost in the deafening silence that followed the spectral train's passage.
The air hung thick with the stench of ozone and decay.
Liam and Emily were frozen, their faces pale with terror.
The tunnel seemed to press in on them, the air thick with despair.
"We have to get out of here."
He sounded far away, lost in the darkness that had swallowed his friend.
They stumbled on, their hope dwindling with each step.
The tunnel seemed to twist and turn, an endless labyrinth designed to trap them.
But then a faint light flickered ahead.
Not the spectral glow of the train, but something different.
Warmer.
More inviting. The light led them to a narrow side passage.
Runes glowing with an ethereal light were etched into the walls.
The air here felt different.
Charged with an ancient power.
Chloe, her eyes drawn to the runes, felt a pull towards them.
She touched one, and a jolt like a static shock surged through her arm.
Images flashed in her mind.
A circle of figures chanting, their hands raised towards the tunnel ceiling.
A ritual.
This is it.
This is how we escape.
She remembered the pocket watch.
The hands moving backward.
A disruption in time.
A key.
Liam, smash it!
Shatter the glass.
Liam hesitated for a moment, his eyes filled with uncertainty.
But the desperation in Chloe's voice, the raw fear that mirrored his own, spurred him to action.
He slammed the watch against the tunnel wall.
The glass shattered with a sharp crack, and the hands stopped their backward journey.
Time seemed to shudder, then snap back into place.
The runes on the walls flared, bathing the passage in blinding light.
The air crackled with energy, and a wind, powerful and unseen, whipped through the tunnel, pulling them towards the light.
They closed their eyes against the blinding glare, the wind whipping at their clothes, tearing at them.
And then, just as abruptly as it began, it stopped.
They opened their eyes to find themselves outside, at the base of Widow's Hill. The air was crisp, and the morning mist clung to the ground, giving the forest an ethereal quality. The entrance to the tunnel was gone, sealed once more by the earth. It was as if the forest had swallowed it whole, leaving no trace of their harrowing journey. The sun was rising, casting long shadows across the forest floor. The light filtered through the trees, creating a mosaic of shadows and light that danced on the ground. It was as if no time had passed. Yet everything had changed. They were safe, but Ben was gone. The forest seemed to mourn his absence, its silence heavy and profound. Days later, after the police search had been called off, Ben's backpack was found by a local hiker. It was partially hidden under a pile of leaves, as if someone had tried to conceal it. Inside, alongside his belongings, was his camera. The camera was old, but it had captured something extraordinary, something that defied explanation. The last photo on the roll showed Ben, his face illuminated by an eerie green light, smiling broadly. His expression was one of pure joy, a stark contrast to the unsettling scene around him. His arm was draped around the shoulders of a skeletal figure. The figure's hollow eyes seemed to stare directly into the camera, as if aware of its presence. The background was a blur of spectral lights and twisted metal. The train. It was the same train they had seen in their visions, now a ghostly apparition in the photograph. He was on the train. The locals weren't surprised. They spoke of the train as if it were a living entity, a part of the forest's dark history. The forgotten tunnel, they said, claimed those who dared to uncover its secrets. It was a place where reality and the supernatural intertwined, and some secrets, they whispered, are best left buried. The forest held its mysteries close, and those who ventured too deep were seldom seen again.